Hey everybody, welcome to today's edition of Chuckin' A on Finance, brought to you by iiefinancial. iiefinancial, willing the good of another. Hope everybody's having an absolutely amazing day. Annie, we are live on a beautiful, beautiful December.
It is. The temperature finally went back up a little bit.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
It is beautiful.
It's a very nice day, and we have
Since the last time we recorded, we had snow in Houston.
Yeah, I don't understand how that happened. What? The first year we came, we had a little bit of snow, right?
We had ice, and there was a tiny, tiny little bit of dusting of snow that sort of collected on one of the lawn chairs in the backyard, and it was a huge deal.
Well, this time we had enough to make a snowman.
We did. And one of the things I found most hilarious about the whole thing was that people down here obviously aren't used to snow, and so some people built a gigantic snowman, like life-size snowman, but it took all of the snow from the entire yard collected. So in between the snowman, you see like grass and mud and dirt.
And to be clear, when you say life size, you mean toddler sized.
No. I mean, there were some people like adult size.
Oh, really? I didn't see any adult size snowman.
Like our friend Bruce, he had a gigantic like 6-foot-tall snowman.
I didn't see adult size. I saw some toddler size.
Yeah.
We made one that fit into my hand, which I think you took a picture of and posted up on Facebook.
Yeah, true. But the one that was adult size, that was in Baton Rouge, and they got like 3 inches.
Baton Rouge got 3 inches of snow.
Yeah.
And I'm running the marathon, the Louisiana Marathon in Baton Rouge in January, and I really hope there's no snow. Well, what's funny is in Baton Rouge they had snow, and they canceled. You ready for this? They canceled Winterfest because of snow. Come on! Who cancels Winterfest because of snow? Ridiculous. Ridiculousness. So
that is a good, you mentioned the marathon though, that's a good, I put up the link
a good plug. Yeah, go to gofundme.com/iiefinancial and take a look. We'd love to get some support for the marathon. We're running for a very good cause. The Henderson family, they do missionary work all over the world, and really looking to support them as best we can. So. Yeah. So, well, let's, we do the same show every week, and when we go into our show, we talk about, really we do 4 segments, and the first segment is just kind of a market review. What happened last week in the markets? What do we see that's coming here shortly? Second segment, we pull some news headlines, and we just kind of bounce the ideas on the news headlines back and forth. And then our third segment is education. We do a little bit of an education piece, followed by our final segment, which is kind of a planning piece. So we're going to be live. Those of you that are joining us on YouTube or on Twitter, we're going to be live for the first 2 segments. And so let's go ahead and just kind of dive into some market review and what's happened over the last week or so. Today we actually saw a pretty big spike up in oil. Crude oil popped up, although today, in the last few hours, it's coming down pretty hard. But we did get a little bit of a pop up to crude. Crude for a long time had been in that $45 to $55 range. And that $45 to $55 range that crude oil had been sitting in was really just bouncing back and forth. It seems like now that range has increased, and it seems like since about the middle of November, we're in a $55 to $60 range. And today we hit a high of about 58.60. Before now we've rolled over down to about 57.21. Could see a little reversal at this point here. For those of you that are watching live, it's a good chance for candle-to-candle trading based on the last setup that we had. But what we have in crude oil, really when we look at it, is crude oil affects all of us from an economic scale. And the reason I point that out is because the PPI, the Producer Price Index, which came out today, showed that producer prices are going up. And if producer prices are going up, what is that going to mean for the end goods that a user is going to have?
Yeah,
right?
There was an article on Market Watch that talks about the northern pipelines being shut down, but so far it hasn't had any effect on the markets and on the pricing. And in this one commentary, it just talked about how investors are basically just kind of sitting idly by, just waiting and seeing, which seems to be very much the market sentiment as of the last year anyway. It's like a wait and see.
There's a lot of wait and see mindset out there.
Yeah.
And when you look about oil, I mean, from the beginning of June to today, it's gone up from $43 a barrel to $58 a barrel. That's a significant increase. And we're starting to see, one of the things I will notice specifically here in the Houston area, we live in Houston, I am starting to see more hiring coming from these companies. I see a lot more jobs being posted. I see a lot more people that I'm friends with are talking about that they're hiring and expanding, and which was not what you heard a year ago.
No, but they laid off a lot of really tenured and experienced people. I shouldn't say tenured, that's a legal term, but long-term,
sure,
employees. And I wonder, with them posting jobs now, what types of jobs are they posting? What types of people are they looking to hire?
Right. Well, it seems like they're hiring, pretty good jobs. They're not hiring entry level. It seems like it's primarily schedulers and traders, and I've seen a lot of scheduler positions, because we have a friend who's a scheduler, and he was a scheduler who got laid off years ago, and I was, for some reason, my eye always goes to it. But they're not low paying entry level jobs. They're actually pretty good positions. And that's one of the benefits of rising oil prices. Now, what's the downside of rising oil prices?
We pay at the pump.
We pay at the pump. We pay at our airline. Of course, the airlines are gonna say that they can't afford anything, and the prices are gonna have to come down again or go up again. But
the more reserved from that, then fuel prices go up for deliveries, and so we're paying more for consumable goods and things of that nature as well.
So the question is, how's this gonna affect your wallet, right? If you're sitting at home and you have your 401k, your IRA, what it is, how is the price of fuel going up going to affect your wallet? Well, ideally what I think we'll see is a little bit of a sector rotation, and we'll see energy sectors come maybe more into focus, more in favor. We've seen recently, one of the things that has been pretty evident over the last few weeks has been the FANG stocks, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google. They've really, Apple, they've really taken a little bit of a hit. And they're actually not the top performing stocks over the last couple of weeks. Financial stocks have been kind of what we've been rolling into. I was speaking to a client yesterday, and the client that I was speaking to yesterday, I said, if we get a breakout, meaning the market's just choose to break out, which it looks like the Nasdaq is just about doing, then we're going to look primarily at financial stocks and industrial stocks as potential leaders in this market. They've been leaders for a while, for the last couple of weeks. If we get a pretty deep pullback, meaning that the market gives a little bit of a rest and it takes a breather, right, takes a little bit of a breather, then I might look to re-engage on financials and consumer discretionary sectors. So the market is broken down, as we've done this on education podcasts in the past, the market is broken down into sectors, right? So when you think about the stock market in general, the whole S&P, that S&P is broken down into sectors, and a sector is a group of like companies, right? Things like energy, the energy sector, the basic materials sector, the industrials, consumer staples, consumer discretionary, healthcare, all those different sectors. And the top performing sectors, when you've got energy as a top performing sector, that typically is going to follow after the price of the commodity goes up. And that's why I would look for a potential, rotation a bit later as a potential opportunity. So keep that one kind of in mind, in play when you're looking at your investments and what they look like. Do you want to maybe put a little bit more into energy if you see this thing kind of continuing to rally? So in other news, big news that came out was the release of the Bitcoin futures. People were so excited. I mean, they're fired up, right? The Bitcoin futures have...
The price had ramped up in anticipation of it.
Oh, the price is the price of Bitcoin has gone, and I do not profess in any way to be a Bitcoin expert. As a matter of fact, I punch myself because I've got friends that have been doing Bitcoin for a long time, and they're doing very well. And the liquidity has been there, meaning that they've been able to get out of their positions and cash them out. That's kind of the fear, right? The fear is it goes up so high, and then when you go to get out, is there going to be a buyer on the other side of that? And from what I've heard, they've been able to get out pretty easily because there's still a tremendous amount of demand.
Yeah, the other inherent risk is pending litigation and regulation as well.
Yeah, that's always kind of over there's always reasons to not do it in my head, right? And the problem is that there were reasons to not do it when Bitcoin was at $300, and now it's at what, 18,000? I mean, so one of the neat things about having the futures of Bitcoin is now that they're traded right now, they're traded at the CBOE. In December, they're going to be released on the CME.
For
December
people who
18th.
don't know, tell them what the CBOE is.
That's a good point. Chicago Board of Options Exchange, which is where they're trading one of the contracts, and then the CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, I think it's on the 18th, is releasing the other futures products. I got a lot more confidence in the inability of those places to not get hacked, if that makes sense. You know, there was, especially in the beginning, there was a lot of concern with the viability and the security of the Bitcoin, right? And you could go to various places to buy a Bitcoin, or really you buy portions of a Bitcoin at this point, at this price level. Most people aren't buying a full Bitcoin. And then you buy and sell from that level. Now you've got the ability to short. Now we've not seen a lot of shorting coming in the Bitcoin market in this future. Now it's not very old, but there's really been no shorting. Matter of fact, we do a daily video. I do a daily video on my YouTube channel, and yesterday we analyzed Bitcoin from a perspective on the technicals, just reading the charts. And it looks like there's a potential short on a breakdown, but it stayed above that level that we had kind of lined up. So I think that Bitcoin overall, it's having an effect on gold. That's what Bitcoin has done. So what we've seen, especially since the release of the Bitcoin futures contract, is that the price of gold has continued to fall. Now gold was already in a downward trend, but gold has continued to fall. And I heard somebody today, I was watching Bloomberg, and I don't always pay a tremendous amount of credence to what I see on Bloomberg or any of those television shows, but they did talk about Bitcoin being gold 2.0, right? Is Bitcoin gold 2.0? Why gold? Why now, right? Is now the time to say, well, you know what, gold's no longer going to be around. Is Bitcoin going to be the thing? And we've seen a little bit of, I guess, what you'd normally expect gold to have some stability. It's actually fallen since that, you know, time will tell, but it's fallen since that futures contract was released. So I'm interested to see what happens with it. Looking at the big picture of gold, the big picture of gold is, you know, we've been around this $1,200, $1,250 an ounce range for a couple of years. I mean, you know, it's popped above, it's gone below, but it's really found a fair price area at about $1,250 an ounce.
I'm wondering too, if you're done with talking about gold for a second. I have a question.
I'm a ranter.
I have a question. I'm wondering, so you can trade currency pairs with Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. So
I'm wondering, you know, we talk a lot about having the line in the sand, right? And when is time to, you know, get out of the market in terms of when it comes to a market downturn, and then investing in things as the U.S. market's going down. There are things that you can look at to you know, to continue to grow your portfolio that may not be just to invest in, you know, a U.S. index. And so I'm wondering, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, possibly investing in other currencies and, you know, things like that. And if you can invest in the currency pair of Bitcoin, is that
well, I mean,
a viable option?
I say it's a currency pair, but it's really the Bitcoin against the U.S. dollar, right? Yeah. It's measured in dollars. So it is going to be a viable option for people. If the stock market goes down, maybe Bitcoin's a place that they look. Maybe it's something to investigate. Now, I wouldn't say for most people it's just going to be, because I just don't see this being something you can just trade in your IRA, right? People have their retirement accounts, but there are Bitcoin-based ETFs. So there's Bitcoin-based ETFs that you could use as a conduit to allow you to invest in Bitcoin in your IRA. Because there's people that want to do that. They want to invest in Bitcoin in their IRA. And there are ETFs out there that can allow you to do that in a conduit. I will tell you, I don't personally have any clients that are in it right now, but it is something that I have had clients ask me about. They're not quite ready to make that leap. They're not quite ready to make that jump. But I can see a very near-term future where they will be. And it is a very viable thing to look at this point. You know, now, might it come crashing down and come screaming halt? Yep, it might. But then again, where's the limit?
We trade a lot about, you know, we do look at some fundamentals. We're primarily technical, you know, traders, trying to look at the whole picture, but we really spend a lot of time looking at charts. Is there enough historical price data in the price chart of Bitcoin to be able to make a good, you know, probability decision?
You know, there is. I was actually speaking to a friend of mine, Todd, a couple of days ago, and he was telling me, because he's a total technical based trader. That's all he is, and he's seeing, you know, at 16,000. I know that number sounds even ridiculous, but at about 16,000, there is some really good fair price buying area at Bitcoin at 16,000. And that's on the futures on a very small time frame chart. But if you go down even way lower at about 6,000 is a great level on the daily time period. So those time periods for where to accumulate Bitcoin do exist, and those charts have been around a while. You can get them on tradingview.com is a free website that has the Bitcoin charts. I think it's BTC USD, and you can pull up a chart of Bitcoin, and you can look all the way back historically.
You can actually look, I just pulled up a random chart just instead of pulling up the trading software, I just pulled up Yahoo. On Yahoo Finance, you can even pull up a chart of Bitcoin as well.
Yeah, and I'm looking at...
It's not super detailed when it comes to candles and things like that.
Sure.
But it's...
Well, I'm looking at the XBT chart, /XBT, which is on my platform, is the futures symbol. And, you know, it's hovering right around $18,500, you know, is where it is. That's kind of where it's hovering. It's been around there. It launched right at 15. Immediately in the first 15 minutes went up to 17. Went from 15,000 to 17,000 in the first minute, and then settled at 16,000 for about 15 minutes or so before then rallying up and topping out at 18,850. So think about that. In the first night it was traded, it went from 15,000 to 18,850. And a lot of people were afraid that when they launched this futures market that you were going to see it really fall apart, really tank. My fear is this, and here's my fear. There's a lot of people who've made a heck of a lot of money in Bitcoin this year. There's a lot of people that have made a heck of a lot of money in Bitcoin this year. And it's December. So what do we know happens at the end of the year? Well, now they got to claim taxes are going to come. So the question is, do they pull out, right? Do they pull some profits off the table before tax season and do something else with it? Do they pull some profits off the table before tax season after the CME futures markets are launched? So it is something to kind of keep in mind and something to be aware of. But for most investors, it's not something that I'm going to jump into with both feet. But it is something that I've been on the sidelines a little too long, frankly. I'll be the first to admit it. But I do believe that there is a viable opportunity when used properly in a portfolio.
Yeah, and depending on your risk aversion and things, it doesn't mean that you have to take your entire IRA and throw it into Bitcoin. There's certainly percentages that can be applied.
And there are ways to do it in a safe way. So in a safer way. If you've got questions, give us a call, 832-953-4998. That's 832-953-4998. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to dive into the headlines just a little bit. You're listening to Chuck and Anna Finance, and we'll be back right after this. We're not leaving, I promise. I'm just pressing stop. It's just going to be segment 2, but we're going to come right back and go over the headline stuff. Drinking my coffee. I feel good. Let's see. That was a long segment. We did like 18 minutes.
There's a lot to say about Bitcoin.
I know. Well, I drew a line yesterday in my video, 17,420, and look at this. It bounced off it 3 times. I put it as a short, and if it breaks below, and it just bounced off of it 3 times. Still hasn't broken it.
Well, you talk about those fair price areas, it's eating into...
It is. It's gonna, and if it breaks below there and goes down to 16,000, I like that area. I like it a lot, as Forrest Gump would say.
All right, do you have our weird news of the week?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Right.
Found it.
Okay. Last 3 weeks, it's been a surprise for me. I'm scared.
You should be scared. This is even better. All right, we're almost ready. That's a long video. It's going to take a while.
Okay, because if you didn't have any weird news, I was going to pull
up... Oh, you found some?
I don't know. I found a few.
Oh,
man cements his head inside of a microwave in a bizarre stunt, which nearly killed him.
Okay, that's a better one. The fact that it's nearly killed him. He cemented his head. How do you cement your head?
Cement your head in a microwave in a bizarre stunt.
At least I wouldn't have any cement stuck to my hair.
Yeah.
Boom. All right, I'm ready to do segment 2 here in just a second. That one took a long time to record. Right.
And there's another one. French naked restaurant opens.
I think you got both of them. Yours are way better than mine.
Going down in a storm with diners.
All right, yours is way better. All right, ready?
Yeah. Pumpkin kayaking and bog snorkeling.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Chuck and Anna Finance. You're listening to... Oh wait, I start that again. That was terrible. Behind the scenes. Behind the scenes.
Two mere mortals.
That's right. All right, we'll start again. Hey everybody, welcome back to Chuck and Anna Finance, brought to you by iiefinancial. iiefinancial, willing the good of another. Visit us online, iiefinancial.com. So in our second segment, we always like to talk a little bit about the news headlines for the week. And we always like to just pull some news headlines out and give you our opinion and our thoughts. And we always like to start our news headlines with the news of the weird. And Annie's got a good one. I had one set up for news of the weird, but you smoked me like a cheap cohiba with your news of the weird. So I want you to describe it. Actually, no, I'm going to start mine, and then we'll let the listeners decide if yours is better than mine.
Okay.
But I kind of think yours is better than mine. So I'm going to set the stage for mine. I'm going to set the stage because it's the holiday season, right? Whether you know the Christmas season, the Hanukkah season, and everybody knows that there is a trend in ugly sweaters, right? You guys have been to an ugly sweater party? Everybody's been to an ugly sweater party. If you've never been to an ugly sweater party, host one. They're awesome. I won one, by the way, because I had lights hanging off of my sweater.
That was a self-made one. That was before ugly sweater parties were cool.
It was a homemade ugly sweater.
It was a homemade ugly sweater party.
But
now people go out and buy ugly sweaters.
There's a new trend.
That defeats the point. Anyway.
There's a new trend. Yeah, we went to the thrift store and bought a terribly sweater, and then we just really made it ugly.
Yeah.
There's a new trend. They're called Christmas eyebrows. You heard me correct when I told you Christmas eyebrows. So there is a picture of a girl who she's got her eyebrows are all pulled off, and she's got little balls at the end of her eyebrows, and a little star right here, right in the front of her face, right between her eyebrows, right where where my unibrow starts growing and connecting. She's got stars and then little twinkle balls coming off.
I wonder how that goes when you try to go for a job interview.
I don't know. Another one.
Fair?
Oh, another one's got stars kind of all around it. It's gorgeous. I need Christmas eyebrows. Oh, another woman made her eyebrows look like Christmas trees. They are awesome.
Go cut down a bush, decorate it instead.
I need these. I need these Christmas eyebrows.
I'm not impressed.
I could make Christmas eyebrows like nobody else's business.
Oh my gosh.
They're great. But I think yours wins.
It's not holiday nor festive, but it's pretty legendary.
Okay, so tell me yours.
All right. Computer is scrolling very slowly. The title for this news article is "Man Cements His Head Inside a Microwave in Bizarre Stunt, Which Nearly Killed Him."
Okay, so let's break that title down. Man cements his head in a microwave in a bizarre stunt which nearly kills him. What's the craziest word in that segment? Nearly. Nearly. The craziest word is nearly. How do you nearly die after you cement your head in a microwave?
I have no idea.
There is no question I would be dead. D-E-D, dead.
Well, the story is quite hilarious. So
Why
I think it was in England. He was trying to, it was sort of a joke, and he was trying to make a mold of his head. So the microwave was sort of irrelevant. It was just a container that he could use that his head fit inside.
Oh, so he wasn't trying to nuke his face.
He wasn't trying to cook his head. He was trying, it was just the vessel in which he was trying to construct the mold of said head.
So he put cement
in a microwave
and then stuck his head
inside of it because he wanted to make a mold of his head. However, I guess he didn't pay attention to the bag because it was quick-set cement.
Quick-set.
Yeah, quick-set cement. And so it says that his friends had to feed an air tube into his mouth to prevent him from suffocating. Okay, and then paramedics were called after his pals tried to free him for an hour and a half.
So, do you think they were using chisels? Ding, 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 ding,
Oh,
ding,
they
ding,
did.
ding, ding. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
they did.
so
Well,
awesome.
the friends weren't trying to use chisels. The paramedics that arrived ended up having to actually use chisels to remove his face.
My friends would pay for the chance to chisel my head.
Oh, I get just the heebie-jeebies thinking about.
Ooh. But we can use a Christmas reference because Lucy would call him a blockhead.
It's true.
Yes, I just used a Charlie Brown reference.
The crew spent an hour trying to free him, and the firefighters found him with the microwave still firmly stuck on his head in the garage of his home.
That's awesome.
They actually couldn't even do it. The fire crew couldn't even do it. In the end, it says they had to call colleagues in from the technical rescue for specialist advice.
Well, or you just bring in a jackhammer.
Yeah.
And as we say in Texas, get her done.
Oh, this is even better. Okay, then we'll move on to some real news.
Okay.
Before sticking his head in the cement, he put his head in a plastic bag. And then put it in the cement.
Well, that's good. So at least he didn't get it in his hair. That's nice.
Yeah, this is tremendous.
That's awesome. All right, so let's talk some
Weird
real news. Real news stories. So on MarketWatch.com, there's an article, says it's an opinion article, but it's here's why the Fed will hike interest rates on Wednesday. U.S. Central Bank looking past low inflation to raise rates on Wednesday.
You know, I feel like when we read these Fed stories on the interest rates, I feel like #yawn.
You read my mind. Why do you take all my stuff? I was going to say that. I'm so
We've
tired.
been talking about it almost every show for, since we began the show because there's been such a flux with new Fed chairs and interest rates, and it just, I don't know, they're leaking out. We've talked so much about the boiling frog.
You're right. I mean, it's people know that the rate is coming. I believe that the rate change is priced in. I think it's probably priced in. So I don't see that really changing much of anything in the financial markets. I really don't. I don't see, there's this fear that a raise of the rates will cause a panic and it'll cause people to lose their minds. But I think if you're going to raising them during the Santa Claus rally is the time to raise them. I think you'll have a lot of people who...
Because people are distracted?
Yeah, they're distracted. They're not looking through it as much. It's not that big of a deal. And so I agree. I kind of consider it a yawn fest. We'll see what that happens. So, what does that? Because the three things right now that are really driving the market, in my opinion, not that are driving the market, that are driving the fear that people have in the market. Number one are the rates. Number two is the tax bill.
Yeah.
And what is the Republican tax bill going to do to change our economy? And I've heard about that in many, many, many instances. And so, the biggest thing, there's another article on Market Watch that says the hidden features of the Republican tax bill that make it much worse.
Yes,
than
and then
advertised.
7 minutes later, an article was published that says Americans may be too pessimistic in assuming how a Republican tax bill will impact them.
That's just what I was going to get to. So you read good news 1 minute and then bad news the next. Here's the problem. We don't really know enough of the details to make an informed decision, and that's not our job to make that decision. We've hired people to do that. It's called Congress, right? When we put our elected officials in a place to make that decision, we just hope that they've got enough knowledge and can make their own decisions. I'm not here to be a political commentator, and I'm never going to be a political commentator. Who you vote for is your business. Who I vote for is my business, right? But I will say this. There are good things that I've heard coming out of this potential tax code. I've heard a lot of good things. I've also heard some things that are kind of negative. And the biggest negative that I hear most people talking about is how the little tiny things in here really affect and help the super rich. That's what a lot of people are concerned with, is that it helps the super wealthy and it causes the middle class to spend more, right? It costs the middle class more money. That's the number one thing I've heard from the complaint side, from the negative side. From the positive side, the biggest thing that I've heard is that it frees up the tax rate. It lowers the corporate tax rate. The best thing I've heard is that it lowers the corporate tax rate. And immediately when people hear lowers the corporate tax rate, they immediately think of greedy corporations. Why do they need a tax cut? As a small business owner, I don't think that way. if I'm a small business owner, the idea of going from a 35% tax rate to a 20% tax rate excites the heck out of me. See, just because you hear about the corporate tax rate being lowered, that corporate tax rate affects an LLC, an S-Corp. It affects individual pass-through entities as well. And so if you're a law firm with 4 employees, if you're an accounting firm with 7 employees, if you are a contractor with 3 employees and you hire a bunch of GCs, if you're an insurance agent with 5 people that work in your office, these companies now with a lower tax burden that don't have the money, yeah, it's real nice to go out and not say nice, it's easy to pick on the big corporations that pay a 16% tax or an 18%, whatever the number is, because they've got armies of accountants and tax lawyers that can move them through loopholes and they put their money offshore. But what about
everybody that you drive by going to work or driving your kids to school or going to the grocery store?
What about Joe's pool supply? Right?
Every business you drive by on your daily
commute
anywhere.
What about Texas Tom's in Kingwood, Texas, and his pool store where he's got, I think, 2 employees, and he just got hit with a flood? Do you think that's going to help him? Absolutely, right? You know, what about Al Spall's Hardware, or what about all these individual small businesses that can benefit from it? And nobody's talking about the goods there. Nobody, because it doesn't sell headlines, and that drives me up a wall. All right, I'm off my soapbox. All right, I'm back on. No, just kidding. But I think that, you know, when we read the headlines, the 2 headlines that are going to grab the 3 headlines right now grabbing people's attention are Bitcoin, interest rates, and the tax code. That's it. Aside from everybody misbehaving and allegations and all that stuff, ignore all that. I'm just talking financial, right? It's Bitcoin, it's tax codes, and it's interest rates. And here's what I tell every single client that I speak to. What's your plan, right? If you have a solid plan, if your plan is in place and you've got a solid plan, then none of these outside factors are going to affect you too negatively or too positively. Because you follow your plan and everything will fall into place. Because a good plan is one that can be adjusted if the market dictates that it needs adjustments. How do you adjust a plan where your goal is to make as much as you can?
You need the boat first before you can adjust the sails.
Wow. Did you
I
guys hear
love
that?
analogies.
Did you guys hear that?
It's my thing. I do analogies.
You need the boat before you can adjust the sails. I think you should just drop the mic.
That's why I'm here, for analogies.
Drop the mic, walk away. No, but you're right. You're right. What's the phrase about adjusting your sails? You can't change the way the wind blows, but you can adjust your sails, right? You gotta have the boat first. I like that. So you gotta have a good plan. Your plan can't be, I just keep going to work and put money and hope I have a lot someday. That's not a plan. That's a hope. A plan.
That's barely trying to tread water.
Right.
Is what that is. You don't have a boat at that point.
Right. So, you know, what we can help you to do is to figure out your plan. If you don't have one, let's help you build one. Doesn't mean you got to do anything with us or not. But we can at least talk you through what does your plan look like, so that at least you've got a place to steer, so that none of these outside factors affect you the same way, right? Because you can react accordingly if the market dictates that you do. So, if you want to learn more about it, give our office a call, 832-953-4998, or go online, iiefinancial.com. Fill out one of those contact us forms and we'll get back to you so that we can maybe see if we can help you out. So we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to do our education piece. Thank you guys so much. You're listening to Chuck and Ann Finance, and we'll be back right after this.
And that's it for a live stream.
All right. Hope everybody's having a great day. Appreciate you joining us, and visit us online. We'll see you soon.